So thank you all for attending today and opening your hearts and minds to a topic that is near and dear to my heart. It's one of the most prevalent violations of human rights in the world and one of the least prosecuted crimes. I'm talking about violence against women. According to the National Center for Injury Prevention and Control, 1 in 4 women experience severe intimate partner physical violence. We can all do much more to respond to the crisis of justice of those women that have suffered. This should be one of our top priorities as individuals, as a state, and as a nation. Thanks to New York State's Office of Prevention of Domestic Violence, as a licensed cosmetologist, I've been given training on how to be aware, believe, listen, and empower victims of violence through the I Am Able movement. However, I do not support this initiative just because it affects others, but because it affects people close to us, people in this room, including myself. It has been almost 10 years since I was able to escape the domestic violence cycle I was trapped in with a significant other for over 6 years. Both scars inflicted, physical and emotional, stay with me today. Like many others, my story didn't start out that way. But over time, his need to control eventually became violent. There was jealousy-filled emotional abuse, physical abuse, and financial abuse that bit by bit eroded my confidence and self-worth until I became accepting of that behavior. There were hospital visits, police interactions, outreach by friends and family, and several failed attempts to leave. It wasn't until this person was arrested for another crime that I was being able to break away from the fear and abuse that had trapped me for so many years. Sharing this story today is a truly daunting experience, but I decided to tell it anyway because stories like mine need to be told. Not just to survivors or women's groups, but to everyone. It's time for action on all levels. The effects of this act can remain with women for a lifetime and can pass from one generation to another. Studies show that children who have witnessed or been subject to violence are more likely to become victims or abusers themselves. Help us put a stop to this cycle. Don't ignore it. If you hear your neighbors engaged in violent situations, have a friend or family member reach out to you for support, or even witness an act of violence by a complete stranger, don't hesitate, call the police. It could change or even save a life. For an effective response to violence, and for any chance to alter the destructive path we have seen in the past surrounding this heinous crime, we must work together. A rape survivor must have rapid access to health clinics that can administer an emergency medical care. A woman who is beaten by her husband or boyfriend must have some place to go for safety. Any victim of violence must have confidence that if she does file a police report, she will receive justice and the perpetrator will be punished. A recent study published in the American Psychological Review finds that transformation in attitudes are happening around the world. Yet even with this rising, more than half of the women surveyed still believe that domestic violence is justified. So even though attitudes are changing, we still have a long way to go to end the violence. This violence against women has tremendous costs to communities, nations, and societies. According to the Journal of Occupational Health Psychologically, victims of intimate partner violence lose a total of 8 million days of paid work every year. That's the equivalent of 32,000 full-time jobs. The violence also affects public well-being and everyone's health and safety. The Office of Justice Program cited 142 women were murdered in their workplace by a former or current intimate partner between 2003 and 2008. If left unaddressed, these human rights violations pose serious consequences for current and future generations. Learn the signs of domestic violence. Your efforts today can help ensure peace and security for countless women, promise healthy and bright futures for our children, and reduce poverty across the nation.
Good job.